Hello, and welcome back to Break the Twitch, an interview-based podcast on intentional lifestyle design. I'm your host, Anthony Ungaro. We sit down with amazing guests that share their expertise and personal experiences in how they do more of what matters, so you can too. In this episode, I sit down with Marli Williams, a joy instigator, official wilderness guide, and creator of epic experiences. She's also the creator of Camp Yes, a summer camp for women entrepreneurs, leaders, and changemakers. We talk about the power of disconnecting to connect, how to be more playful in life and work, and how starting small is one of the best ways to learn and grow, and more. Finally, this podcast is supported by the BTT member community. Join the community to get immediate access to 12 month-long audio courses with topics ranging from decluttering to building a mindfulness practice. The community is chock full of tools and resources to implement sustainable changes in your life to help you design a life of your choosing. Go to breakthetwitch.com/community to find out more. If you enjoy this episode, please do remember to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your podcast player of choice. But for now, let's start the show. Hey, Marli.
Hey.
Welcome to our Portland Airbnb.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Yes, we're excited to have you here too. And I say we because Amy is here with me and we have been setting all of this up previously. And so now that makes more sense.
Yes.
I know that you just came off of a pretty big, exciting, probably exhausting experience called Camp Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to dig right in here. What was Camp Yes all about?
Camp Yes is the adult summer camp for women entrepreneurs, changemakers, and leaders that I run annually. So this was year 3 of Camp Yes, and it was by far, I think that there's like year 3 magic when you're an entrepreneur. It's like first year, you're just like, I have this idea, I'm going to do this thing. And like year 2, it didn't get as much momentum because I just moved to Portland. So there was just like a lot of transition. And like year 3, there was just so many dots that connected, like really owning essentially like the curriculum that I created and the place that we had it and like the food and the venue, like everything it flowed so well. It was amazing. And every year, like right before camp, I'm just like, I am never doing this again. It's like for anyone that has ever put on their own event, it's a ton of work. And, like a lot of events are at hotels and then people go home or they go to their hotel room, and at camp, they're there for 4 days straight overnight and having, food and lodging and accommodations and activities and programming from like the time people wake up until the time people go to bed. So it's like full on for, when we have 24 hours, one day to set up camp for 50 women, essentially. So there was like 60 people total, including all the staff. It always blows my mind. And it was just so reaffirming, like how transformational and how powerful spending time in nature is and how little most people do that. And part of Camp Yes is actually a total digital detox. So we were going to take people's phones and got some pushback from that because people are that addicted. They're like, no, you're not going to take my phone. But we did make sure as people were checking in, they put their phone on airplane mode, they put it away, they turned it off, whatever, for the weekend. And not a single person had their phone out the entire time.
Wow.
And people loved it. And it was just permission to be fully immersed, fully present, fully actually connecting, like human to human, face to face, and not trying to like capture the moment, to like be in the moment. And I just think that we just need more spaces and places where we can do that. And I think the other big thing that I kept hearing from a lot of the campers was how healing play can be. And I think that we think about healing and like personal development, it has to be like really hard and heavy and therapy and like, deep, dark secrets and all these things. And I'm not saying that's bad, but what I got reflected back was just People saying that they have never laughed that hard or played that full out, and how that just like released so much for them. And so like the whole thing, I just walked away being like, okay, like even though beforehand I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this again. I already like the week after, this whole week I've been getting like the dates and booked the same place for next year because people were just like, this changed my life. And so it's just like that commitment to creating experiences that change people's lives. Like that's what it's all about for me. So yeah, still in recovery mode and still in like processing all the things mode, but it was by far like the most impactful transformational experience I've created to date, for sure.
That sounds incredible for a multitude of reasons. And there's like 3 things I want to ask you about already about this.
Bring it.
The first little microcosm of this that I'm really curious about is the phone thing and not having it out. Did you see any pattern of like resistance, discomfort, and then like people, okay, we're fine? Did you see any of that happening?
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, a lot of it on the front end, actually, like in my email communication, because I'd been talking to the staff, like, should I actually physically take people's phones or not? Like, and so the interesting thing this year, so the past 2 places that we've had camp, there was no cell phone service. So it just kind of wasn't an issue. Like there's just no service. So we didn't feel the need to take people's phones, but the place that we were at this year did have cell phone service. And that's why there was this whole like, should I take people's phones? Should I not? Like going back and forth. And I sent an email out to all the campers being like, just so you know, like this is what's going to happen at camp. Like you're going to hand in your phone at check-in and we're going to put it in a cell phone sleeping bag and it's going to be super cute and it's going to go camping just like you're going camping, but you don't have to be with it, you know? And trying to explain why, like that the goal is like, I'm not trying to be an a-hole. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to create an experience for you to not be plugged in to external noise. That this is really an invitation to tune into you and to truly connect. And when I sent that email, I got a couple emails back being like, I have these medical things, or I have to take care of my family stuff, or I have these things that I'm going to need to check in on or respond to or whatever. And so there was definitely pushback and resistance on the front end. And so I was like, man, what do we do? What do we do? And then at camp, we pivoted and we're like, okay, you have the choice. Like turn your phone off, leave it in your car, or turn it in. And then at check-in, we were asking people, and then like most people just were totally fine turning it off or on airplane mode, but not handing it in.
Giving up full control of it. Yeah.
And so there was and so we just let people make that choice and feel empowered in that choice.
Sure.
And I think that there's so much for women, especially like maybe they're the caregiver for their kids or their parents. Like there were women that were like, I'm the sole primary person. Like if anything happens to my mom who's in hospital, in this care facility, then like I need to know what's happening with her,
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's the first week of school for kids and parents, all these things and all of these reasons why they like needed to have their phone, and just having compassion for that. And also saying like, the invitation is for you to rely on the people in your life to show up for you so that you can show up for yourself. Because if you don't, you're going to burn out. And that need for, I think, women especially to just like always be on and always be there for everybody else. It's like such unfamiliar territory to just like, I have no responsibilities and I have no emails to get back to and no phone calls to make. And I just get to be fully present. It's like very unfamiliar, like uncharted territory for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's all this resistance on the front end. And then like 24 hours in, it's like people are just like blissed out. And, I had a professional videographer there, a professional photographer, and I mentioned like they're here to capture the moment for you so that you can be in the moment.
Yes.
And so they are going to be taking photos and videos. And so it's not like we're phone free and maybe not completely tech free, because I think that there's value in really capturing the essence of this experience for you and for the future and all the reasons why that's helpful, like just to relive that. But like for you to actually go down the slip and slide and not be trying to like Instagram it at the same time. It was funny at the closing circle. I asked people like, how was it? Like, how was it to go without your phone? And they're like, oh my God, it was the best thing. I loved it. It was so freeing. And it actually helped people like totally change their relationship with their phone.
Yeah.
And realizing like, I don't need to be as plugged in as I think I need to be. Like I was okay and everybody else was okay and nobody died and I didn't die. And it's like a realization that maybe it wakes people up to how addicted they are to their phone and how freeing it is to just be so present and not have to capture it in the moment while you're being in the moment.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, to be honest, like as a person who, social media, it would be way smarter for me as a business owner to have you all have your phones out.
Here's the hashtag.
Hashtag. And creating all this FOMO and getting people like stoked and signed up for next year. And I had to decide, like, I'm more committed to the integrity of the experience than I am to the marketing, and trust that people's word and their, reflections and sharing it afterwards. And, we're going to have photos and you can wait 4 days to share them and it's going to be fine. And so it's like having faith and trust in that too, because that's a big part of a lot of conferences and live events market through their people, through their hashtags. And it's different post-event to do that,
A couple of things you've mentioned. One is I remember the first time personally that I was forced to go without my cell phone. And this was a flip phone. This was a Motorola Razr probably. And I went to a friend's cabin in northern Michigan and there was no cell phone service. And so this was before phones were like iPhone addicting and like this level of interactivity and this kind of stuff. This was just like text messages, but still. And I remember that exact curve. That's why I asked. It's like, oh no, like I'm checking my phone, even though I know there's nothing new because there's no signal and I'm still checking it. This was like 14 years ago. 24 hours into it was the exact moment. I remember exactly like that, where it goes, whoa. And this weird kind of weight that you didn't even know you're carrying, it just kind of goes and gets lighter all of a sudden. And then you're there. And then it was just sitting and the battery died because I didn't even bother charging it. And I know, as you're saying, like, I understand there probably is element of privilege in being able to like, okay, I guess it's dead now and I'm not going to worry about it, because there are a lot of people that are the linchpin for their families and holding together a lot of things. But what an amazing opportunity to put some faith in the network, in the family or in the different care providers that can help, and take some time for yourself. What a unique opportunity. Yeah. And to play specifically. And this is something I've been learning about through your work, through Gary Ware, through other folks that are like, hey, adults, this is not something that ends, right? Like this is something we're capable of, something that we deserve, and something that lights up almost every other area of our lives when we tap into this thing. Was that a foundational element of Camp Yes, the play element, or how was that woven in? When
I talk about camp, I talk about this blend of personal development, personal growth, personal exploration, and play, and weaving those two worlds together. Because I think that, again, it's like personal development can feel heavy at times, or feel like a lot of work, or feel like you're in a hotel conference rooms with fluorescent lights, like with a motivational speaker on the stage, right? Like, or reading a self-help book alone in your room, like that's what we think about. And then sometimes we think of play as purposeless at times, or like we don't make space for it. We don't create it. And I think that we've almost forgotten how to.
You mentioned purposeless, like play has no purpose.
Yeah.
And that's like there's purpose, but also the purpose is purposelessness.
Right.
And then how often do we get to do these things that in our day-to-day lives that are just like, well, not necessarily attaining like a specific end result that we need because X and Y, yet we do need it. And it is this thing.
The point is just to play.
Like, what are you talking about here? Like, what is play?
The essence of it for me is like doing stuff that you love just because you love to do it. Like without needing to accomplish something, or I think it's just doing things that fill you up. And I think that there are things that we actually do in our daily life that we could do in a more playful way. For example, like cooking a meal could be playful, and you could have music going, and you could like open up a cookbook and be like, I've never made this thing before. I'm going to see what happens. And I think that there's an element of play where I'm not like, it's not being attached to the outcome, but really being super present in the experience and like allowing ourselves to actually enjoy the experience. You know what I mean? Like play is almost like a way in which you can see or frame or reframe things that you might not want to do. It's like, I get to cook dinner for my family, and like I could do this in a super fun, playful way. Really like making play dates with yourself or your friends or with your, kiddos have play dates. And I think that as adults, it's like, hey, I'll meet you at the bar for a beer, or I'll meet you for a cup of coffee. And we like kind of get into these habits versus like, hey, there's this trail that I've been wanting to check out, and it's like in between our houses, and like, let's meet at the trailhead at 10 and go for a hike together. Let's go, instead of going to a movie where you're just like sitting and watching something, it's like, what can we do? Like, let's go to the zoo, or like, let's go just go bowling together, or something like kind of out of the ordinary. And what that does, I think, it just creates, I love just creating magical moments, and they can be, and I don't think magical moments have to be these big grandiose things, but these like small moments that we make like more meaningful through intention. I think it all comes down to, what is your intention? And I think creating time and space for play and seeing it as something that's essential versus something that's like, oh, I mean, as adults, as kids even, we're taught, I'll play, or you'll get to go play when all of the work is done. Right? And so we have that mantra of like, I'm going to play when I get all my work done, when I get the website done, and when I get the thing, then I'm going to go on that trip, or then I'm going to go actually enjoy my life, versus like actually creating intentional experiences and moments to enjoy like little everyday moments.
And the challenge with that, as I'm hearing you say this, the work is never done, unfortunately.
The work is never done.
Especially, where we are now with like, we have the ultimate tools of productivity that society and culture has ever had.
Yeah.
We are connected faster and better and more frequently than ever before. Yet it just doesn't feel like we have any more free time unless we like somehow structure our lives in a way to do it. And it makes me think of budgeting too. Yeah. Like one of the core things around budgeting, and I'm not a personal finance blogger here, but one of the core things around budgeting is like, pay yourself first. It's not what I have left over, I will then pay off some debt, or I'll put some money in my savings account. I'm like feeling this connection between this and the idea of saving the lifeguard.
Totally.
Play yourself. Well, you played yourself. That's not a good expression, but play yourself first. Maybe that's something that can be a thing.
Well, one of the things that I have people do that I work with is to make their own personal playlist. And you can also make a song list if you want. Like you can have a dance party as one of your things that you like to do for fun. And on that personal playlist, I have people write down like, what are all of the things that you love to do that light you up, that bring you joy, whether it's like, I love playing my guitar, or I love dancing in my kitchen, or going for a walk with the dog, or hiking, or spending time with friends, or whatever. And on that list, I have people write down anything that takes as little as 5 minutes up to 5 hours, and maybe even 5 days, like maybe even wanting to go on this trip or go on, camping weekend getaways or whatever, going to check different places out, and actually having like sitting down and creating a list, and knowing that if you're feeling that like that lull in your day or in your week or in your life, that making it easier for you to play, because you have this like, oh, I know what will fill me up, and I only have 5 minutes because I have a lot of work to do, but I'm just going to set a timer, and I'm going to play my guitar for 5 minutes. And I'm going to, the biggest thing is when you choose play, to like choose it all the way.
Oh my gosh.
And not choosing it out of like, I'm going to go do this thing. Like, I'm going to go for this walk, but I really should be editing my thing and working on my website and talking to this client or having a sales call or whatever. It's like to choose it all the way and allow yourself to be filled up and know that it is of service to you and your work versus it being separate from it. You know, because if you are your work, if you are your business and you are burned out, overwhelmed, tired, stressed, and frustrated, you're going to be less effective, less creative, less innovative, and just not enjoy your life. And especially if you're a creative entrepreneur, like the whole freaking point is like enjoy your life. And giving ourselves permission to play is one of the things I talk a lot about. Like, and so, right, you know, the permission slip of like, you are a grown ass person and you can do whatever you want. And, you know, we're only here for a short time. We might as well freaking enjoy it as much as possible. And seeing how it's connected to our productivity too. And seeing it as valuable as getting all the work done, you know?
You know, for those of you just listening right now and not watching on YouTube, I'm over here just like, I'm like gripping the table. I'm like nodding my head, you know, and this just feels like such a say it once more for the people in the back moment. Seriously, because what you just said about bring your whole self, productivity in play is a thing. Productivity in work is a thing. Productivity, right?
Yeah. And even with work, like I love the question of just like, how can I make this fun?
Yeah.
Because again, we have illusions and stories we've been told our whole life that work is hard. How do I make it fun? Doesn't mean that it's like easy to do that, but it's possible, you know, whether that's like making it fun by having an awesome reward at the end of like, I'm going to write 1,000 words and I'm going to give myself like this gift or this permission to go do this super fun thing. And so how do I make the work that I have to do like more enjoyable? And I think reframing work and play and not seeing them as like opposites and from like separate from each other, but really how can there is an ebb and a flow. Like there is time to like buckle down and write the book,
totally,
and do the editing and like do what you have to do. But if it's like we're on that cycle, on that hamster wheel, and it's hard to get off of it sometimes. So it's like seeing that it's just like tides, like water ebbs and flows, like our energy ebbs and flows. And I think too, part of play and productivity is knowing like how you're like the best parts of your day to be productive, right? Like some people wake up in the morning and they can like rock out 4 hours of work like a boss, like from 8 a.m. to noon, and then like have a long lunch or siesta or go work out or whatever. And then maybe they come back and then they work again from like 3 to 6 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, what is that flow of your day and how do you create space and time for play in the midst of like being a boss and getting a lot of work done and seeing like when I go play tennis with my buddy or when I go to the gym, I am more productive, you know, and finding workouts that are fun and that are, you know, is it Zumba? Is it like being in a basketball league? Like versus, oh, I have to go to the gym. Like I have to go work out. It's like, go for a trail run, go for a hike, go do something you actually freaking enjoy. Do a kickboxing class, like take a hip hop class, like whatever.
Racquetball.
I was thinking about that as kids. Like we have extracurricular activities, you know, like we do other things. I'm like, as adults, it's like, what are your extracurricular activities? You know, like what do you do for fun? And like seeing that as like essential, you know, so valuable.
How did this idea come to you as an entrepreneur, as someone wanting to create these experiences and a joy instigator? Like, how did this come to you? And what were the first steps of you starting to formulate this wild idea to bring people together in this way?
Well, it goes back to when I was 19 years old. I went on a 50-day Outward Bound course. And that was, I mean, really the huge transformational experience in my life. And on that Outward Bound course, we had a 3-day solo. And imagine like 3 days in the woods, no phone, no technology, no talking to anybody. And no books. I just had my journal and I wrote a ton in my journal. And I wrote, my mission on this course and in my life is to help people realize their full potential. When I was 19 years old on this Outward Bound course in the middle of the mountains in Colorado, I wrote that down. And that's really been my mission ever since. And so I actually got a degree in outdoor education. I tell people like I'm legitimately a professional camp counselor. Like I got a degree in it. It says outdoor education on my bachelor's certificate. And then I was a wilderness guide for years. So I did wilderness therapy and I led 21-day backpacking trips for students, for high school students. I did all sorts like river guiding trips and all sorts of different things like that. And then I got my master's degree in education. And so I learned how do people learn in program development, program design. So after my master's, I got hired at a university to work with first generation college students. And I was an academic advisor, like helping them. Essentially, I was like a life coach for college students. Meanwhile, when I was in grad school, I developed a program for incoming freshmen called WOOT, which stands for the Western Outdoor Orientation Trip Program.
Okay.
And it was a week-long backpacking trip, helping students build confidence, courage, and community as they entered into this like new part of their life. And then that ended. Essentially, I ran that program for 3 years that I created from scratch, and I wanted to run it full time. Like that was my ultimate goal. And they hired somebody else to run this program.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just like, ugh, the worst thing I could possibly imagine. And I'm like, F you. And that actually, I mean, everything's a blessing in disguise, right? So it really led me on my entrepreneurial journey. I went to Pioneer Nation for the first time in like 2014, which was in Portland for entrepreneurs. I was working full time at the university still, but I was like, I want to do this thing. And so I led my first retreat, and it was like a camping trip for LGBTQ women. It was like a weekend camping trip. Like it was like $150 or something, you know? And so I just started doing these things and felt like I have a ton of ideas. Clearly, that is like not my problem at all. And then as I started my own business and started coaching, I remember saying it out loud. I'm like, I want to create an adult summer camp for women, and it's called Camp Yes. Like it wasn't even like, what am I going to call that? Like, she's like, that is the name.
Boom,
and it was like, my whole thing has been, helping women say yes to themselves and their life and their big crazy dreams and doing what they love. Okay, if I'm going to create this really intentional container and community of women that are kind of unplugging to plug in, or like I call it like disconnect to reconnect, disconnecting from technology to reconnect to their life. And so much of being in nature was just turning down the volume on like the amount of outside influence that we're given on a daily basis that I think causes confusion and doubt and comparison and all this, just so much noise. Just knowing how much more present we can be without that. And as much as I value that, like I'm addicted to my phone, like I am not immune, and I realize it. Like I realize the value of and the power of just the permission to be present.
So this has been one part of your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
How else has this taken shape?
I think one of the things that I have realized over the past few years running Camp Yes and running other retreats is just like you said, I think like the more digitally connected we get, the more people are actually realizing that their desire and their need for in-person, real life, human to human connection. Because I think that we are the experience generation of like, I want to have experiences rather than things. I think for a lot of people, like I have one of my clients right now, she's putting on her very first like surf like life coach retreat or something like that, right? And it's called the Swell Life Retreat.
Oh, dang.
So good.
That's a good name.
And she has like 4 people and it's sold out. Like that's as big as the house is.
Wow.
She has 4 attendees and she has her, another person, and a chef, right? So one of the things I say to people is it does not have to be big when you start. When someone comes to me, Marli, I want you to help me with plan my event or plan my workshop or plan my retreat. And I would say, what is your intention? For you, for them, and for your business. So maybe for you, it's like, I have this message that I want to share and I want to be more confident in sharing that message. For my audience, like I really want them to have a transformational experience through surfing and feel really empowered and inspired of that they're more capable than they think, right? And for my business, it's like maybe I'm enrolling in my mastermind program or my coaching program, or I want to sell my book or whatever. Like How is it going to serve your overall business?
You did explain kind of like the road and the journey to find this thing. Have there been other things you've tried that like just you thought would do it more for you, but didn't along the way? Like
I've been getting clear through just taking action. Like, all right, maybe this is a thing, and trying it out. And my whole jam is like it's just one big experiment. Like, I don't know friggin' what's going to happen or what's going to land, or if I call a webinar this or I call a masterclass this, like how many people are going to come and why they're coming, like who's coming. And it's just been like, I think the past year is really when I've like stepped into the facilitation training and coaching stuff. And it's still like, I mean, I'm still building that and really building this whole platform of like, this is what I want to be known for. Because before, I mean, and I still like with coaching and speaking, it was like, I like your energy. And so I want to work with you. And it was pretty vague. And I realize it's hard to get people results when it's vague. The clear and clear and clear that I am getting, and it will continue to evolve as it always does. But it's like, it's more fun for me. It's easier. Like when I think about writing curriculum or writing my freebie or my opt-in or whatever, it's like, I was like, I want to create a guide to creating your epic workshop. It's like, all right, if you're doing a 2-hour workshop, here's everything you need. It's 7 pages. It's like, this is, and so, it came out of me in like an hour, and then I had to like make it look good or whatever. Right. But it's just noticing where it feels, again, where does it feel fun and easy?
It's been a theme on the podcast this season, and I'm hearing it. And so I'm just going to put it out there. A couple of things. One is the thing you mentioned about like 4 people at an Airbnb is an event. Big thing with Break the Twitch is like smaller
baby steps.
It's easy to have this big pie in the sky thing, but like, let's put this into action, make it a real thing, right? If it's like running, let's take some steps outside. That's it. That's the start. An event can be 4 people and a chef. Sounds like a great event, actually.
Yeah. Super freaking powerful.
Right.
Like doing like a total deep dive with a handful of people and getting footage and getting the videos and getting the testimonials, getting your confidence, like all of it. The biggest fear is no one's going to come. Or like, what if they don't come? What if they don't sign up?
Sure.
And that's why I say it's like, you have to be all in. And I talk about the mindset with putting on an event or retreat. Like, how are you energetically holding the container for people to say yes to you? And like you believing in what you have to offer. That is like, I mean, as much as it is like, oh, what Airbnb, it's like, do you believe in this thing? And if you believe in it, then create it.
The other thing too, that I'm hearing that I want to just like hammer home here, because I love how you're talking about this.
Yeah.
The doing is the learning more so than the thinking through and planning it. And I feel so often, I've done this to myself. I know we do this as humans. We come up with this idea, we put this big thing in our minds and we start planning it. And it's like, okay, I love analogies. So like, I've never made a pot before. So what I'm going to do is spend 3 years just thinking about like what a pot should look like and how it should feel in my hands and like what the clay should feel like as I'm working it and what it'll feel like to have the wheel spinning. And we like plan those aspects of it thinking through instead of like, okay, where's some Play-Doh?
Yeah.
And like, what happens if I just roll it into a snake and pile it up and you get a little pot?
Yeah.
And it may be trash, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
But the way that you make a better one, right? And so often we just get lost in this like big idea thing, and it just gets stuck, and we hold it and we hold it and we hold it and we hold it.
I think that has been probably like the key to my success over the past 3 years, is just like, I'm willing to give it a go and do it and try it and know that there is so much learning on the other side of doing that cannot happen through reading a book and watching all the videos and getting all the trainings and the certifications that'll make you qualified. I did this whole ridiculous thing with a workshop that I led at Camp Yes, actually. And I said, nobody is going to knight you as an expert. No one's going to like come to your door and be like, I now therefore declare you, sir, the expert in all the things Break the Twitch, right? Like, you just get to decide. You just get to decide that, like, I know things, and then you get to share that. Like, that's it. And how you build that confidence. People don't just wake up one night or one day and they're like, and now I'm confident. Now I have this message to share. It's like, maybe I have this thing. Who can I share it with? And like, the first workshop that I did was in my living room with 10 people about build your dream life for 2017 or whatever, right? Like, and it's like, we forget that, like, that's how it starts. And so it's like, oh, I don't have a place to do it. Do it in your living room. I don't have a place to do it. Like, call a friend who has a cabin in the woods. I didn't have a place to do my first retreat. We went camping. Like, if you want to make it happen, like, there's a way to do it. And we can totally, like, just think ourselves and analyze all day long to talk ourselves out of it. And so it's coming back to, like, why does this matter? Because, like, if it doesn't matter, you're going to find a reason and an excuse to not do it. You know?
100%.
And there's so much more learning that happens when you just, like, do the thing than, like, overthinking the thing, you know?
For sure.
I'm, like, all about that. Like, imperfect action over perfect inaction any day of the week.
Any dang day of the week. Yeah. I mean, this just has just this resounding thought around the break the twitch concept of, like, the false first step. Oh, I want to be a runner. Well, I have to have really good running shoes. Cool. So, like, got the running shoes. That's not that exciting anymore. Okay. Well, like, oh, I got to know my heart rate to be a real runner.
Totally.
Like, so I got to get the thing, the heart rate monitor. And I don't want to downplay the value of research, the value of, like, a freaking grad school degree in, like, really specializing and getting amazing at this stuff.
Yeah.
There's huge value in a lot of these steps.
Right.
But I think also a lot of the time we look to externalize the work and thinking that just the one more thing will be what it is that helps me do that underlying journey that I'm trying to go on, when it's really like, get the Play-Doh out. I love the concept of camp yes, specifically like the name of saying yes. I feel like personally, a lot of really amazing things have come into my life just because I've been like, okay, sure. Yeah, let's do it. And when I didn't really know how it would happen or necessarily what would come of it. Now, later, as I have a bit more kind of focus and, like, some goals and things like that, balancing the yes with the no has become a new challenge. Because in my earlier days, I definitely said yes to all the things and probably fell through on some because I said yes to too many things. Do you have any thoughts on in life, different times, sort of balancing, like, the heck yeah, and the maybe not right now is a good time?
We're not saying to say yes to everything. Like, that's not the point of, like, say yes to all the things. It's like, it's about saying yes to yourself and really getting clear based on where you're at in your life right now, what that looks like and means to you in each and every moment. And there's this play shop called The Magic of Yes and No. And really looking at, like, where does yes live in my body, like, as an embodied practice, and where does no live? And actually, when someone asks you, and we do, like, practice rounds with people, like, asking someone a question, and instead of just responding or reacting, what we, you know, like, because we say yes because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or we want to be grateful for the opportunity or whatever. And so we react versus respond, and taking a moment to pause and check in of, like, is this a hell yeah or a fuck no? And if it's not a hell yeah, to honor the no. And that there's a way to say no to an offer or an invitation and yes to a person. Hey, I would love to go on that hike with you. And I'm actually working on this book that I need to get done. I need to get the edits done by the end of the week, but I would love to go next week sometime. Or I'd love to hop on the phone with you if I can't do a in-person thing or something like that. There's an alternative offer potentially. Or it's just saying, like, you know, thanks for the opportunity. And right now I have other goals and that's not feeling in alignment right now. Or it's like, I've started to say no to free speaking engagements, right? Like, that's been a shift for me. And it's like, as much as I know the value of, like, getting in front of the audience, I need to value my time and also trust that there's something else that's on the other side of me saying no to a thing that isn't in alignment right now. And so knowing where you're going, I think what you said, like, knowing where you're going and knowing what your goals are kind of helps guide that yes and no Versus at the beginning when you're just like, I don't know what is happening. I'm just like going to say yes to all the things.
And I think that's a great time to be saying yes
and
to all
I
the
think
things.
that that's great. Like at the beginning, you do have to just like put yourself out there and like be willing, like do the podcast and do the speaking, do the whatever. As things grow, I think it's honoring ourselves and just being willing to pause. I think it's like the power of a pause versus this like need to have this knee-jerk response, or I need to get back to them right away, or it's like even just saying, I need a day to think about that. Like, thanks for the offer, or thanks for this invitation, and I need to look at my calendar, or I need to double check so that I don't overbook myself or overschedule things, and make sure that like if I'm going to show up, I can show up 100% versus like saying yes and then giving like everything 50% of me versus like these 5 things 100% of me. And I think that there's different yeses and nos that kind of happen on the entrepreneurial journey and just in anyone's life based on where you're at and what you value and what's important to you. And so I think like I think that like taking a moment and not feeling like we have to just like respond right away, and we just get to actually say yes to the things that we want to say yes to, and knowing that we might disappoint people along the way, like, and that's okay. But I think that if we say yes to everything, yes, everyone, we're going to burn out. It's like, it's just not sustainable. You can't do it.
We do condition ourselves to feel an immediate response to a request is necessary.
Yeah.
Because we feel like maybe we're letting the person down if we don't right away, answer right away, or we, for some reason, but like, what an amazing, like, hey, I really would love for you to do this thing. And, you're going to have to prep an entire talk for it and whatever. And it's exciting. Even if the opportunity is exciting, maybe that's even a better time to go like, that sounds incredible, but I want to make sure that I can commit fully if I agree to this. So thank you so much. But is it okay if I get back to you? Right? Like acknowledging that gift of the opportunity, but then kind of going, but let me like really think about that.
I think that we feel really bad, or that we live in a culture where it's like saying no is like a rejection to that person, and like, oh, what if I never get an opportunity again or whatever? Like one of the hardest things I said no to was actually right after I left I put in my letter of resignation at Western. When I worked at the university. And then there was this opening in this leadership studies department because I was like, oh, well, what if I just like taught a class and still connected to Western? And anyway, I went through the whole interview process and I had to teach a class and I had to do all these things. And I go into this woman's office who I super respected. She was like director of the leadership studies program at Western. And she was going, and I had thought about, I'm like, man, what am I going to say when or if they offer me the position? Like, do I want this? Like, and I really had to sit with that. And I thought to myself, if I say yes, it's going to be because I don't believe that I can go all in on my dream. Like, it's out of fear. I would say yes out of fear. And that was like, and so I go in her office and she starts talking to me as though I was going to say, it's like, oh, and you can start on this day and da 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 da. And I said, Karen, I have to pause you for a moment, but I've really thought about this, and like, I need to say yes to like my dream, and I need to say no to this opportunity. And I hope that you can like respect that. Or I don't know exactly what I said, but it was like, I've really thought about this and it's not a hell yeah for me right now or whatever. I don't think I said hell yeah, but, and it was so hard in that moment to say no to someone that I totally respected, say no to this amazing opportunity, like, professor in leadership studies at a university, right? Say like, and I was just like saying yes to like being an entrepreneur and like doing this thing that I don't know if it's going to work out. Like super unknown. But it was like, there is that intuition and there's the whisper and there's this knowing. And it's like, if we slow down enough, we can hear it. And I think it's the speed in which we're going through our life that we actually don't have, like, we're not in touch with that place. And the cool part to wrap up that story, because it's like, this is the whole, like, when you say no, there's like a yes on the other side, is a year later, she hired me to come speak at that leadership studies class that I would have been teaching.
Snap.
For like pretty much the amount that I would have gotten paid to teach the entire class. I got paid for 1 hour doing a talk to the class that I would have been teaching. So like there's yes on the other side of no. And I think that sometimes when we say no, we think it's like, that's it. Or we're breaking trust or rapport. They're never going to ask me to do something again. If I can't go to that, then I'm like out,
Yeah.
I remind myself of that moment when I'm having a hard time saying no to opportunities.
Yeah. I think that's just why no can be so scary sometimes, because you see a tangible opportunity that you're giving up. And so when you say no to something, you know what you're saying no to, but you don't know what that means you're going to be able to say yes to because of it.
Right. You don't know.
And so it's like you're losing a tangible for a dream maybe, or for like something else. And it's beautiful that's such a cool thing that, you came back and did the speaking gig and it came through like that, because I think that is real. And I think that is something that is totally, we need to be thinking about as we create space in our lives for these opportunities to come through, that these are the possibilities and they're infinite, and space itself is infinite. Anything can fill it. And that's an amazing, beautiful thing when we create that space for ourselves.
And when we don't create it, there isn't space. That's the downside of saying yes to everything, is that there's no space for that new energy or new possibility or new opportunities to come in.
Yeah.
Because if we're just busy and running around then I always say it's like if we're here and we're here and we're here, we're just saying yes, 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 versus like when we say no, it creates this like space and a pause for like something new to come in. And there is this element of trust and faith and I think operating in the world I think saying yes to everything is like a scarcity mindset, where it's like, this is the only opportunity I'm ever going to have to do this thing. And when we say no, we're like, there is this amount, like there's trust and abundance of like, if this client doesn't work out, this other thing will. If this thing doesn't work out, this other thing will. And like, it's also a mindset and an energy and a perspective of like how you show up in the world. And that is such a more peaceful way of operating than like, it's like graspy, like this like graspy energy versus this like open and receptive and connected place where like I can trust that if I say no to this, I'm going to be okay. And they're going to be okay. And everybody's going to be okay.
And just to kind of like, and even from the external position of that, right? It's like, if you were a hiring person, or if you were someone looking for someone for an event to speak at in this example or something like that.
Yeah.
The energy from the person that you're potentially hiring,
right?
What kind of energy do you want? Do you want someone that is desperately grasping at every single thing that comes, which I understand there are phases, there are times for that where you take every opportunity that comes to get things going. But like energy wise, are you looking for the person that's like, I'm going to have to see if can fit this in, and this can be something that I can really give my full attention to because I show up fully for everything that I do. It's like, well, shoot, let me know. You're like, you let me know.
There's a way to say no to an invitation and yes to a person. There's also a way to say yes to an invitation that can feel like a no. Meaning like, hey, can you come speak at this thing? And it's like, fine. Like, I'll be there. What time? Like, technically, that's a yes.
Technically, that's a yes. But it's like the energy of the yes, right? Like, does it feel like this is an obligation, or is it an actual, like, is it a hell yeah? Like, is this 100% a yes for me or not? I think that I have felt that when I've asked someone to do something like, oh, can you do the dishes or whatever? I was like, fine. And it's like, fine, I'll do it. Like, if you're not going to do it and be like enjoy yourself doing the dishes, like I would rather do it, right? There's like an energy of we can say yes and just still like not really feel it. And like that's like a lose-lose. Because like you're doing it because you feel bad to not do it. And then it's like you're not going to perform. It's not going to be effective in the end, right? So and it's then it like doesn't even count really as
good.
A favor because like you're doing it, but you're not doing it out of love.
Versus like, like I'd love to help you with that.
The dishes or like you're talking about. Oh, it's funny. So Marli, you got some stuff here.
I do.
Which I'd love to know about. For those watching on video, you'll be able to see what's going on. So go to youtube.com/BTT podcast and check out this episode if you're not already. So what's up?
Check it out. So as a facilitator, I like creating tools to use in my events. And one of the big things with the events that I run is just how important connection is. And there's always that like weird 30-minute awkward time when it's like, okay, doors open at 6:30, event starts at 7. Everyone's like wandering around and being like, I don't know, am I in the right place? This is weird. Like, do I talk to people? And there's nothing happening. And a lot of events will say like informal networking. And instead of informal networking, I call it intentional connecting. And so I created this deck of cards called the Connect deck. And I cannot tell you how many decks of question cards that I've bought, and they all suck, pretty much. I like 10% of them, like table topics and all these other ones. And I'm just like, okay, I have to like weed them out. And I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to make my own deck of questions that I actually want to answer.
There's that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah. It's like, if it hasn't been created, I'm going to create it. So this is a deck of cards, and they all have like fun little nature pictures because I like nature and all that fun stuff. And then on the back, there's all of these questions that are super fun. And then the Stowe quotes were my OG card deck.
Yeah, I remember. I think we met right at about when this came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Think Better, Live Better.
Right there? I don't know. I love quotes. And so I was like, I should just create my own deck of quotes. And so I did. So these are super fun, phrases and things that I say to myself and good reminders, and people put them like on their mirror, on their wall.
That one says, you are stronger than you think.
You're stronger than you think. Dream bigger than is reasonable. This is like probably my favorite because everyone needs to hear this.
You are way more than enough.
Just some fun little tools, and I use them when I speak, and I have people write on the back like, what is the action you're going to take? And they do Stowe quote selfies with them. And
that's great.
It's super fun. So yeah, I just figured I'd bring them on the show and show your
off.
people
all
the fun little toys that I have.
Well, in the spirit of questions, I guess it is time for you to do one of our questions.
What inspires you?
Oh,
The thing that inspires me the most is like making a positive impact on other people's lives. Like, I'm super lit up by it. It's the thing that gets me out of bed. It's the thing that motivates me. And I think that I feel the most inspired when I'm like doing the work that I feel like I'm meant to do in the world. When I'm speaking and when I'm connecting with people like at Camp Yes, and just getting to witness people's lives transform. And that is the thing that I think, seeing and witnessing that, like the light bulb go off and the transformation happen, and that I was a part of someone else's journey. It's just like, it's the thing that I want to do for the rest of my life.
So Marli, where can people find you and your awesome questions and your Stowe quotes and all that stuff? Where can they find you online?
Easiest place is my website, marliwilliams.com, MARLI Williams.com.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for your time today and coming on.
Thank you so much.